Okay, I was going to kind of do a little taking the piss. But then I thought about it and I was like, no, 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 no. Just start kind of dry and serious about it. It was the recent video that there's now responses to, and I would see that there was responses to this, and I was like, wait, what? Vaush and Anna Kasparian are discussing like men, and so then it hit me. Ah, Vaush is see, Vaush will survive. This is the thing. I am now calling it. It's really just it's just as soon as I turn the camera on, then it hits. Vaush will be like Tom Hartman. When the revolution fails, Vaush will find his corner of the universe to exist in. That he will still be able to try to kick all this revolutionary shit. Now, I just want to touch on something. Note what he looks like now. He looks remotely normal. He looks like an NPR scholar. NPR level scholar. Oh, yeah. Because he's even practicing how to pitch his voice so that it's perfect. Oh, he's one of those people that if you know what you're seeing, if you understand like the liberal mind and you understand like the man who has always been afraid, he has never been capable of violence. So he has to fight through proxies, which is the essence of so many men who are liberals. This is why they will not act as if riots even really occurred. There weren't race riots. What are you talking about? They'll have some really weird. It gets just strange. The energy, and you know what you've done. You know what you said. There were not race riots, and they know they suddenly you aren't in the cultus. You aren't in our fantasy cult of how we rename everything. Once we have failed again, we rename everything. So now feminism has totally failed. Totally, completely failed. Women are now under, with the secret police and the FBI conspiring with legions of journalists and government workers. They've seized control of the country, and what's happened, women and especially young girls are less safe than any other time in history. I'm going to make another video. It's going to be me reading about the recent report that came out about how much chomo is up with school. It's exploding now. Reports of sexual crimes against minors by public school teachers and public school staff has exploded. And so it's just, I just love it's everything. Scott Adams even said it. I swear it was that he saw that I was in the chat and he just was like, yes, this is going to be a good one. I'm gonna get in his fucking head because I'll be a dick. I've named him a couple times, so in the title. So, but he said, he goes, what is it about liberal white women? Why do they love voting for these policies that are so horribly destructive, and then end up kind of ruining everything that makes the very cultural basis of liberal white women, and that's being able to look unattainable, eating food someplace with friends, talking about where you were able to travel, and how much you love everything about your own life, in public, and you can't do that now in your liberal enclaves because you never know when somebody's going to come up and start, some guy's going to appear out of a bush and urinate on you or fart in your general direction or just crazy people do crazy things because there's people. look, here's some people. Hey, let's get loco and do loco things, because that's what that's why somebody like me moved from California, and that I would try to not talk about California. The worst moments were when the person from California is like, wait, what? I'm from Sacktown. What, you from Frisco? And then they would start, oh shit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, please, shut the fuck up. Do you notice how quietly these people talk around here? It's weird, but you just gotta get used to it. You gotta keep, no, you damn, gee, people here are like this, people here are like that. I know, yeah, but you know what's not going to happen? Nobody is going to purposefully cut you off in their BMW while you're getting off a bridge. They're not going to cut over 3 lanes, cut your ass off so they could go off. That's not going to happen in Oregon. People might speed down a country road in a way that freaks you out, but no BMW person's gonna cut you off because they're in a motherfucking BMW. Maybe up in Portland, but in most of the state, that kind of shit doesn't happen. California, that is the fundamental culture of it. I'm gonna do something that could kill us both, but I'm in a BMW. Do you not understand what I am driving? I can do whatever I want. So, the thing that really Vaush and Anna Kasparian were missing, and this is why I was like, no pee poo poo. Just tell them what you missed is a thing called the cult of manhood. The cult of manhood. You have to look up Freemasonry. That's one of the easiest and most ubiquitous versions. You look through what their 3 degrees are. You just look through something that just loosely explains them. But you'll find they learn things that are unique to the group. A type of almost lore that the group is into. Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, Marvel Universe, DC Universe, if, say, it's not something religious. You have something in common that is your thing and is quite identifiable. Now, we simply do not associate what would be identifiable among Freemasons is that they are people who you would associate with the Enlightenment. There could not have been the Enlightenment without the Freemasons as an order, and what they were really, because they were the top intellects in all of European society, and so these people had interests. And this is then the next kind of thing to understand. All groups of men end up having some type of interest. Now, something that this is why it surprised me about Vaush, because I'm really surprised you really don't grasp it, but it makes sense. It makes sense because the right cannot be correct, because you guys are your own cultists, and one of the rules is the right wing cannot be correct, and the problem that you have is accuracy is the bailiwick of the right. But the left is its own cultus, and a big part of what surprised me is how you weren't really thinking along these lines of the cult of manhood, say, like Freemasons, because this would be so imperative to, say, the world of the Francosphere, because of the Grand Orient and their lodge, and that their lodge is fundamentally people who, a lot of people on the right were basically like, it's the commie lodge. It's basically the international, the commie lodges, the red commie lodges of France, and it's because of it they have the Grand Orient just has certain different rules, and it has to do with the fundamental concepts of metaphysics, and because you could have, I think it's agnostics or possibly atheists, and but yeah, so, and you can't with Freemasonry. And so there we go. With Freemasonry, say in most, up until very recently, you find there was still the ability for people to go back to first principles and argue first principles, because these were all people who were educated in philosophy, which would not have been it wouldn't have been of interest to a very large group of most common American men, because they had to worry about agricultural stuff, because that's what they were involved in work, which would be 60 to 70-hour work weeks. These would be men who were very likely of simply a class they had been able to afford some leisure time. When you find lodges that they're more of the working, they go back to really working class, really, really rootsy kind of original people who settled in place, you usually are finding it's a specific, it does its own thing. It's its own specific thing that basically it's York Rite rather than Scottish Rite. And so groups of men then divide in these various ways. That's why you'll see gangsters, but they look similar but are different. The effort at trying to help young men in Chicago. So they created all these community centers. These community centers then developed clubs. These clubs then would have sweaters for events that were like dances and things like, and award ceremonies and stuff, good boy things. But then there was another sweater, and that was the war sweater. And this is literally where the gangs of Chicago of today go back to. There's actually a channel called Wrong to Strong, and you could look up gang sweaters Chicago, and it'll probably come up. Skinheads, that was a cult of manhood of East London. These were English people that they would have been there as the Jamaicans who decided to go to Britain and were invited by Britain, started filter. This is the first place that a lot of these people filtered into. So often there would be fundamentally nights where the Jamaicans were having a Jamaican night. There wouldn't have been a tremendous number of them, but enough that it was the Jamaican night, and they're having Jamaican music. And this is why reggae becomes then a thing, and it becomes the sound of the skinheads, because there's these white guys who don crew cuts. They would wear snazzy suspenders that would typically match their socks a lot of times. There was a new shoe that had come out called Dr. Martens Air Soles. That was the new look. The big thing was if you could find a place that sold American Levi's jeans, that was really cool. That was really, really cool back then. But what they would really wear were Levi's Stay Pressed, and so those are like sheriff's pants, what you see a lot of times the sheriffs wear. That's the kind of thing they look like Dickies, almost, but different. And it was just the style. And so that style lasts and lasts and lasts, even though the music and a lot of the culture ends up changing. And really, over there, the idea of there being neo-Nazi skinheads, this is a super weird minority of them. That's really was considered like kind of weird, because it's like, why would you be into Nazism? What the fuck are you doing? And it's because there were people who were associated with the Labor Party, and so this develops then this spread. But it's really the Americans who really adopt the idea of the neo-Nazi skinhead. That's mostly an American thing. British skinheads have there are lots of forums and it's a dude forum. There are lots of birds in there, but but that was the thing. It was a dude forum. It was of men with similar interests: soul music, dance nights, reggae, ska, things like that. Jiu-jitsu, capoeira, karate, kenpo, kung fu, all of these martial arts, they all are ways that typically a young man enters the cult of manhood, and that their rights really... there's a socialist named Briffault that would argue that a lot of these rights would go to a time... there's certain aspects of them that were adopted from female magic, males taking on the role of the magician, which was once a female role, and so there's certain things that they would don and stuff that like, especially with Taoists, this would apply, that they look more like they're what they don. It looks very feminine, but the idea being that it's because they inherited a lot of the roles of the sorcerer from a time when it was a woman's role. Just as fundamentally in the Western world, it's the thing of agriculture was a magic power of women, Medea and Ceres and such like, but then it becomes a science with men, and that changes everything. Is able to, you have metrics for it, and it must be then an industry. So, no, being in a cult of manhood in any way, shape, or form, there's nothing like it. When you're referred to as brother, it's this. There's no. It's that there when that's your man. That's one of your men. I'm sorry. It's just without you knowing that, you can't. Without knowing that feeling, you can't. And a lot of men, when not knowing that feeling, but knowing that something like that exists, they gotta find some kind of group. They gotta, in some way. And so, like, Marxists to a great extent are trying to do that, but their whole ideology is so bonked out on the Hegelian Neo-Platonic thing that it's there's no way they can make it happen, and this was something I picked up on in encountering people on the left in the world of martial arts, and I was just like, yeah, this is. I'm like, they're really good, and even what they're doing here is good. And I was like, but to some degree, it's just, yeah, this isn't what I'm looking for, and but I kept ending up training pretty much with an extremely small group of people, in just the backyard of a house, and that's. And yeah, and even had tea recently with, these were men that it was like kind of a group of sorcerers getting together in a sense, and it really, and even discussing things like that, of sorts, and discussing qigong and things like that. It was weird, but it's also, that's my world. And I was brought into it, right after right after right, in a way, by my teacher. And that, having that, I don't know how to do that for somebody else. I'm not sure how that's done, really. That this kid just keeps showing up, and you show him this, and you show him that, you have him repeat this, you have him repeat that, you do this, and then I'm just like, I can't believe I just kept showing up. I thought I was supposed to. I thought that was the idea. Like, in a way, now that I think of it, like, what this would be like, like hanging out with somebody younger than me, and that we're supposed to be going over martial arts, and like, that would be really weird, but I guess I would show them this, and so you have to then put yourself in the shoes of somebody who that you were there with, that it's, you really start to understand, like, this man in a way that's extremely deep. That, especially people like me, who we were kind of an indoor student, is the term. There's not something like, I mean, it's just, there's nothing like that. Yeah. The stories and things I've heard, I just, like, I realize, like, every once in a while I have to sit back and realize very few men go through that. And it's something that you find with, like, military men. You find it a lot with martial artists, especially if they stayed in the game and have really, or if they've done some fighting, that they'll have some stories. Guys who are kind of criminal will have stories like that. They'll have some odd background that gave them the ability to crime, and or the penchant for criming. It's missing that. You're missing that the cult of manhood has been discouraged. The idea of these guys saying gamer words on some platform. Oh, you can't do that. So now they're being watched. They're being watched forever by some mom and some homosexual. And, don't be manly in any way. Don't do things that women would disapprove of. We're watching you. And the beauty of this that I really then hit me as I was watching Vaush and Anna talk about this was, you're too late. You even said it. You can't undo the college issue. Oh no. And this is the beauty. Vaush, you see, Jared Holt fucked it all up. There was so much that you guys missed. Oh, it was good times. Oh, the articles. The writing. You missed the feminist reading challenge that happened with the MGTOW community way back in the days of Chapin's Inferno, where people said, certainly then, we should read more feminist literature. Give us some titles. Thinking, oh, these thick-headed men, they won't. Oh my God, this guy responded. He's on page 100 and blah, 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 and it's only 3 days. Oh, wow, okay. Because they don't know the power of, properly groomed autism into a powerful man. I also don't understand that if you're physically training and you are training your mind at the same time, they buttress each other's results. So your brain improves the timing of your nervous system. So your what you do, especially if you're doing something like powerlifting kind of lifts, your reflexes get better. Your proprioception improves. That's the big one. Proprioception improves. That's your sort of, yeah. Just leave it there. You can look it up. And then that makes your brain restructure. You actually restructure the way you go through the problem-solving process, and it improves. And testosterone is always, testosterone is a performance-enhancing drug in all realms when naturally occurring. This is why, and then when you're around men, and especially if they're active, they're high T, things like that, you regularly meet them, your body starts to adapt itself. It tries to stay high T because there is a thing that is, it's an evolved thing. It's your man clan. Because this has all been discouraged, everything where men in some way gather together and do things as men, because all the weird homosexuals and Marxist pieces of garbage have to try to infect it with some kind of, oh yeah, oh, they're getting together to be gay. Oh, I know because I'm gay and everything's gay secretly. No, and just all of it. It just finally ended up being that, well, no, we have somebody, someplace we meet online here and there. We have this gym, and all the Chad bros in town know about it. You know, nobody fucks with ain't nobody talking no leftist say a fucking word about Muay Thai or Jiu Jitsu or MMA. They don't say a fucking word because they know. They know better. They know that they're like, no, these are people who are high tea, and they're going to come right back. And the thing, all you could do is get angry because you can't beat them in a fight when you're a dude who wears a dress. So, the cult of manhood also comes down to, I have homies. What you got? And you can't address that. You can't. That's so. No. These guys all still could. They could legally own firearms. We don't want them ever thinking that they could get together. Oh, no, no, no. No, no, no. See, what you're doing right now is you're at a bar listening to jazz, and there's all the sexy people of Berlin are being sexy, and it's Weimar era Germany. And you're discussing how there's all these men who seem so despondent in the streets. They might get attracted toward what? Oh, if you only knew how wrong you were about that one. I love how you guys keep trying to use fascism. Oh, Vaush, you're such a dope. I love it, though. I love how much of a dope you are in that regard. That and that you can't get out of that box. You can't, because they won't let you out. You have to discuss it as this thing called fascism. And I just love it. It's actually going to be so funny as the years go on when people are like, no, but we're finding out that almost everybody around Trump was doing this in cahoots with this political party. That's really fascist. And they were working with all these industries, all these industrial giants. I mean, and this one industrial giant was working with Germany too to skew their elections, and it's like, it's beautiful. It is beautiful that you guys aren't getting that. What you're dealing with is American nationalism, and that you're not in it. You're been it. You ain't in it. You know you are. You feel on the outside, and you can't help that. You simply will not accept any of the beauty of the Republic. You just won't. You won't. You will not grasp that James Brown did not happen anyplace else. But after James Brown happened, every place on the planet started playing that kind of music. And the only reason we don't really know about that is so many of them were taken over by jihadi governments every single time it was socialists. Every time. Because I collect soul, and I could get soul music from all over the world. And every single time, this music stops because people are having fun. Normal people will buy music and go out and do things, so that means there was prosperity, and the socialists had to come along and ruin that. And too many of us know this. And so your cultist isn't going to win this. It can't. And we already won the college thing. We're winning the college thing. That's us. That was an effort by MGTOW. If you weren't there for Chapin's Inferno, if you don't know about Captain Capitalism, if you don't understand any of those terms, you're late. You're too late. If you weren't there to read AlternativeRightBlogspot.com when it was still existent, you weren't there. You're too late. If you weren't there to read Return of Kings, you weren't there. You were too late. You're too late. I don't know what you're going to do, but it's going to be fun to watch. That's the best. That's the next part. We watch and we laugh. like dudes. Like we're standing there going, look at him, look at him do that. Oh yeah, look at him, look at that girl, look at Anna. Oh my God, look at her do that. Nah. We love it. We love talking so much shit about you. You guys don't even know. Um, but I mean, when you guys do something that it's worth it, that's the other thing. A lot of you on the left really don't get. You're not. The rent's too high. The rent is just too high, and so you can't live there. But I mean, but without us, you can't even. Who knows what you would even do with yourself? Scientifically speaking, you're just spiteful mutants that are feeling on the outside of the general social group, and the highly intelligent, but you have sort of something's wrong with your understanding of other people, and you can't really feel comfortable with yourself in relationship to other people. And then there's quite a number of things that go into this, but you haven't been, and then you didn't have a crew, you didn't have a posse, you didn't have something that made you go from young to adult in a way that made you see you could be wrong about that, and that oh yeah, it turns out I was, that actually when married people stay married and raise all their kids together, it's not easy, but they end up really happy as they're older. Especially if they're religious people, and that you're like, yeah, actually most of the people I know who stayed married, they're religious people, and they are actually generally sunny, happy people, and so, and then, yeah, most of the people I know who are left of center are kind of miserable people, cynics, and that's kind of why I get along with them, but I didn't realize, like, oh, they're really, like, really genuinely, like, they feel misery. And it's, and it's because they're far more likely, by the science of it, they're far more likely to be mentally ill, and which would probably be that this is a mutation of the brain and the cognitive process. So that's what's popping. Peace.